Right, okay, so, bit of a different setup today. We're a bit cramped into one screen, but welcome to episode 10 of Fitness Thoughts. Good evening, Caroline, hope you are doing well. So, episode 10, we thought we'd do something a little bit different. Quite often on the episodes when I'm talking to the people I've had on, like I've had Sophie on in the past, I get the questions flipped around a lot of me, so the questions that I ask the guests that I have on, then get flipped on me. I haven't really given them much thought. So we thought for episode 10, we would do a bit of a special episode and we would basically flip it, and Sophie's going to basically ask me the questions that typically I ask the guests. Now, I've spoken a little bit about this on and off through the episodes, in terms of my introduction and a few bits here and there, but we're going to jump on and actually go into a little bit more detail in that. So Sophie's going to be asking the questions for this, and then we're going to go from there, and then after this is recorded, it is going to be uploaded to Spotify, YouTube, everything like it normally is. So if you don't get a chance to watch the whole thing, you're going to be able to catch it on that. It's going to get updated over the next few days. So
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, no, that's the case. That's what's happening. So we're going to try and both squeeze onto one screen with two big desk chairs, and then go from there. So episode 10 of Fitness Thoughts. Welcome. Let's get going.
You decided to make it about yourself.
Yes, I've decided to make it about myself. How egotistical of me.
Yeah.
But I'll let you run with it to begin with a little bit. You've got the questions, you know.
Well, I'll just start with the first question, then we'll get into it from there. So, first question that you would usually ask people is, what was your first introduction to fitness?
Yeah.
And you have spoken about it a bit, but
yeah, I have,
I'll let
because
you get into the details.
Yeah, I have, because mine was, I'm going to say it was probably rugby. Mine was when I was probably about 11 or 12ish. Was when my mates started playing rugby. I'm trying to actually think. You'd have thought I'd planned this ahead of time. When I was about 11 or 12, friends started playing rugby, joined the local rugby team. I wanted to play with them, so I joined up with that, and that was sort of my introduction to fitness, to any form of training, cardio, anything like that. Obviously, grew up with my dad, who was, at that time, wasn't doing it anymore, but used to be a competitive bodybuilder, still trained very, very regularly, so we sort of grew up in that gym environment anyway, very aware of that gym environment. And I know for myself and my older brother, we were very much keen to get signed up and started in the gym as soon as we were old enough, which I think was about 14, 15, I think was the age for the leisure centre. So
I'd imagine 14 for the
something
the
like that. So as soon as we turned that age, we were straight into the gym, started training regularly. So
the
gym, yeah. So for me at that time, it was a case of doing it to try and improve my rugby, try and lose a little bit of weight, feel a bit better. And that was pretty much it. And then that carried on, pretty much stayed at that point for most of my teen years until going to uni, really, because that's when I stopped playing rugby. I started taking training a little bit more seriously. And then it's just developed on from there. And it went from being something that I did, certainly from a gym point of view, to facilitate rugby and help improve that, to being something to improve my own body composition, build a bit more muscle, try and drop my body fat down. And there was within that constant cycles of, okay, I'm going to try and gain weight now, and then I'd do it through crap methods. I was basically just trying to eat loads of crap and try and add size on, and then it would be like 3 weeks later, I'd be like, oh no, I feel fat, I need to diet again. So then it would go straight into the opposite, and it'd drop into diets for 3 or 4 weeks, and then I'd be like, I'm bored of this now and I feel like I'm getting small, and then it'd go back.
So would you say the physique point of view has always been like your main driver with it then?
Yeah.
Even since you were like 14?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, because we've spoken about this before, because you know this, because I always felt like...
people don't know this.
Yeah, but because I always felt like I was a bit of like... chubbier when I was younger, but it was just basically puppy fat. But I think because because growing up, most of my brothers were a lot leaner naturally, and most of my friends were a lot leaner naturally. You tend to feel like it stands out a little bit more. So I wanted to try and make sure I could drop that and do something about that. So that was definitely my main driver. Going up and getting into the gym was just to try and get a little bit leaner and feel a bit better about that, really.
So has there always been an enjoyment there then, or not?
No, because you know this.
Yeah. It's not about what I know.
I know. No, you know this. So
I wouldn't ask you any questions.
So it's something that I'm very open with this about my clients, and I have put it on stuff before, is that for me, sort of, when it comes to gym-based training, I do enjoy training in the gym, but it isn't like a passion for me. It's very much, I'm there.
To an end,
yeah, it serves a purpose, so I'll go in to get the job done. Whereas, I even have clients and people I know who, even yourself, like really, really enjoy the gym, love being there, very passionate about it in terms of the actual training. For me, it's never been about that. Like, it's very much, I do it because it serves a purpose. I do enjoy it to a degree, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't do it as consistently as I did. But it's not something that I love and I can't wait for. Like, I don't spend my day being like, oh, I can't wait to go to the gym this afternoon. It's very much okay, I've got to go to the gym this afternoon, get that done, and then I can move on to whatever I actually need to get done that day.
So as a side note then, so why do you enjoy coaching people in this environment?
Yeah. Well, no,
if you are passionate about it.
Because it is, because it's a good question, because you would think, because straight away from the bat, it's sort of, well, if training isn't your passion, why do you love coaching so much, and why do you love learning about it? And it is just that.
And how do you feel like you can tell people what to do?
Yeah, but it is that education side of things. Is I love learning about it, and I love messing about with new training styles, or new principles, or new exercise setups, and everything like that. And I love trying to help people improve theirs. Evening, Bo. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Yeah, I love learning about it, and I love helping other people and implement it with them. I'm just inherently probably lazy when it comes to my own, in a sense of, if it didn't serve the purpose it did, I probably wouldn't do it as much.
But that's why I think it's good, though, that although you're a coach, that you've got a coach, because I think otherwise you fall to the bottom of your priority list and you probably wouldn't.
Well, that was so that was the whole reason I started with a coach in the first place. Wasn't it? Was because as I got busier with work, my own training, my own planning and everything like that just massively fell to the side, and I was just completely I was still training, I never didn't do that. It just got to the point where I was just turning up and being like, right, what do I feel like doing today, what am I going to do today, and then just sort of going through the motions, and sort of just felt very stalled and demotivated for a while, which is why I went with Ryan first, didn't I? So I was with,
one of the muscle mentors.
Yes, went with the muscle mentors for a bit. Then I had Amy for well over a year through all the lockdowns, and then now more recently with AJ. Since, actually, I'll say more recently, but that's still probably been about 5 months-ish as well, 20 odd weeks.
You're asking me.
20 odd weeks, so coming up on 6 months, that's been a while. But that definitely does give me more motivation and does keep me more on point with it, and I actually get a lot more enjoyment out of it in that sense. But yeah.
So to follow on from that then, where would you say you're at now then with your personal fitness journey?
Yeah, mine's a bit of I like to set sort of goals every year or so. So I've done 2 photo shoots up to now, which is something that I never thought I would do. Like back in those sort of early.
That's what it's been about. You just wanted to make your own calendar or something.
I know, literally. I'm on February. I've got a way to go yet. But no, so back when I was younger, and it was a case of I was playing rugby, and I was going to the gym to facilitate playing rugby and to improve that. Like, at that point, I was extremely sort of self-conscious when it came to my own physique and my own body. Was wanting to drop body fat down, didn't have a lot of confidence. Like, the thought of ever doing something like a photo shoot where you stood in front of a camera with your top off was just like, no. Like, I was scared enough just getting changed in PE.
You make it sound like a real some
but
story.
Yeah, feel sorry for me. No, but obviously as time goes on, and then you start working towards that goal a little bit more, and you get a bit more confident and stuff. So the first photo shoot I did, that was after I went to a seminar in London, the Mark Coles one, and it was which was the seminar was brilliant. Working the tube for the first time at 9 o'clock on a morning was
it
not.
Broke down, didn't it?
It broke down, and I ended up having to run through the city centre for. God, I think it broke down about 4 stops away, and it was the first time.
It was like sat, wasn't it, for like an hour?
Yeah, it was sat for ages, so I already knew I was going to be late. Then it broke down altogether, so I had to get off. I'd never been to London before in my life, so then I ended up running around London with Google Maps on my phone trying to find this seminar. Ended up being late to the seminar, but the seminar itself was very, very good. But no, so that was, and then at there it was sort of a case of. The seminar itself was on body transformations, which was something that I was wanting to get into with clients and help with that a little bit more. And it was very much a case of Mark said there was like, you can't put someone through this if you've not been through it yourself. So it was a bit. So I was like,
test the waters
so I was like, well, do you know what? Up to this point, I haven't done that. I've been in that cycle of diet for a bit, then gain for a bit, then feel like I'm getting fat, so diet for a bit, then feel like I'm getting small, so gain for a bit, and it was just a very broken cycle. So I booked a photo shoot. I put myself into a diet as soon as I got home, and I was like, right, I'm going to coach myself through this, and then I booked a photo shoot towards the end of that diet.
After that?
That was after that seminar, and then that gave me like a distinct start point of, right, I'm just going to diet for this one thing. And to be honest, doing that's been the best thing that I've ever done, because that has then set me up for future cycles, so the photo shoot I did this year, obviously having had coaches since that point. And then that's pretty much where I am now, is a point where I enjoy training to an extent of, if I've got a goal like a photo shoot, so I do want to do another one, probably not next year, the year after, it gives me that distinct motivation, and I know exactly what I'm working towards to go in. Yeah, a calendar. Yeah. So that's sort of where I am with my own training at the minute, is just constantly just working in mini cycles towards that photo shoot in another year or two. So I've just finished my first gaining phase with AJ. I think we put about 20 pounds on. So we're now into a bit of a tidy up phase. So we're dieting until mid-December, and then it'll be back into a gaining phase, mini diet, gaining, mini diet. And it's basically that cycle will repeat until we get to the point where we're like, yeah, let's set a date and let's put the work in to do another shoot. And that's pretty much it for me. It's just purely physique based, really. I've done the odd bit of CrossFit over the years, and obviously, and haven't done it as much recently, but we started going climbing quite a bit, obviously with like Ben and stuff, which I really enjoy. So bouldering, something that when I get a chance to do quite a bit just for enjoyment. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
That was a very long-winded
wasn't it? Yeah.
But no, I'm going to deviate slightly from the format, so I'm going to shake things up a bit. No,
this is a special episode. This is a live episode.
Is it special because it's about you?
Yes.
So, oh my god, I forgot what I was going to say. So, just off the back of what you were saying then, do you think you've got a negative relationship with your own body image, or would you say it's been negative and it's improved? It's definitely
been negative. It's definitely improved to a point now where, like, I don't think anyone's is ever perfect. No. Like, I don't think anyone's ever like 100% over the moon, buzzing, unless you go and win Mr. Olympia or something. I don't know, but it's it definitely has been dysfunctional quite badly in the past. It definitely has been something that's been on my mind a lot in the past and felt shit about a lot in the past. But nowadays, it's to a degree where it's sort of that. It's a nice balance of there's areas that I want to progress. So like for me, shoulders, arms, stuff like that, they don't typically tend to grow as quickly as like my legs, for example.
Yeah.
So there's definitely areas where I'm like, I wish these were a bit bigger, I wish I was a bit stronger here. But then I've also got that balance of appreciation of, but to be honest, like at the end of the day, I am actually happy with where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't change it all from now, like I would be happy. I'm just sort of, I'm pushing to keep me motivated and to keep me going. It gives me something to focus on.
Yeah.
But with my current physique composition generally, like,
I think realistically for you as well, not to speak for you, but it's about like a balance of a life. Like you don't lead a bodybuilder's lifestyle, so you can't expect to have, not saying that you don't have a good physique, but you can't expect to have like a bodybuilder's physique or things to sort of be at that exact level of this, that and the other if you want to have a life outside of the gym, which you obviously do.
Exactly.
Because you focus a lot on work and, like you say, it serves a purpose for you. It's not the be-all and end-all of everything.
Exactly. It's not sort of who I am. Although I was thinking the other day, if I just suddenly stopped training, it would be difficult to be like, well, what do I actually do now? Like, especially with obviously having this job and coaching, if I didn't train myself, it'd be like, well, what should I actually do? But
but that wouldn't necessarily mean you didn't have to coach people.
No, not at all. But no, so I don't live.
So then do you see that as part of who you are then? I'm going to get all deep now because I'm in charge of this.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
I'm leading.
Yeah, quickly regretting this decision now. Probably a little bit.
So it's part of your identity.
Yeah, definitely to a degree. I mean, it does, like, we don't live a bodybuilding lifestyle by any means, but it is still a big factor of our lifestyle, more than it probably is for a lot of other people. It's not just something we casually do. So like for me, when I go climbing, I've never once thought about, maybe I'll hire an instructor or hire a class to try and get better at it, because I purely just go just because I enjoy doing it and I can switch off and I don't think about anything. That's sort of, for me, that's been a good insight into, okay, well, this is probably where a lot of people are at in terms of the gym. when they do come to me, they probably don't want to take it too seriously. They just want a bit of extra help.
Yeah.
Whereas where...
Yeah, but I think that's probably like the majority of people.
Yeah, which is cool, which is a really nice, healthy place to be with it. But like we're not in that position, that we sort of are a little bit more... It does determine a lot of what we do on a daily basis. But not to a degree where we don't do anything.
Oh yeah.
So like we don't not go out for a meal, like we go out for coffees all the time, or we don't not go out socialising or whatnot because we have to get up to go to the gym, or because we've got a set meal plan and we can't go off of it. Like we don't have a set meal plan.
No.
We very much eat pretty much the same stuff on a daily basis, but that's just because it's a nice routine that we like. But if we ever need to change it up or do anything different, like we can very easily just do that without any sort of problems.
Yeah.
He says week 1 into a diet that can't go out for a meal.
Yeah, you can't go out for a meal. Well, you can...
But, I don't know. But it's only going to be for 6 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's definitely been something in the past that has sort of been on my mind a lot negatively, and being a negative. It's gone from being a negative drive for getting me in the gym and doing something to becoming a motivating and positive drive.
So it's gone from being like I'm not going to say disordered, I'd say just like a negative relationship with it, to now like a motivating source.
Yeah.
Like a motivator. I forgot my words there.
Yeah, but never... I don't want to say like it was never to an extreme extent with it.
No.
And I've done all sorts. Like I used to spend years doing strongman training just because I enjoyed it. There was never like, oh well, I want to do that but I can't, because if I'm not doing this kind of training I won't lose body fat or I won't change my body. Like I spent ages just doing strongman training because I just enjoyed it more than normal training. So it was never like extreme, but it was very much, that was always why I was there, and that was always what was at the front of my mind.
Yeah.
Certainly when it comes to nutrition as well. Again, that never went super extreme, but like we did all the sort of that everyone does along the way, like dieting for a holiday. I didn't eat bread. I didn't eat carbs.
No carbs before Mars.
No carbs before. It was Malia in this case, but yeah. So there was no bread, no carbs. There was no fizzy drinks, no drinking for about. I mean, I was only 17, but still, everyone else was 18. No drinking.
Yeah, but you had an ID that said you were 18.
I did have an ID that said I was 18
when you were 17.
When I was 17, yeah. Which I would say was
legally as well.
Yeah, which I would say was fantastic, but then also completely wasted on me, because when you're 17 and you get a driving's license, a provisional license come through that says you're 18, which means that you can get away with drinking a year early.
I would have been buzzing.
You'd have been buzzing. I think I drank twice within that year, so it was an absolute waste for me. Oh, that's mad, and I there we go. It's back. Yeah, so my...
People probably heard us going...
Yeah, I don't know when that got cut off, but yeah, my passport was printed wrong that said I was 18, or said I was 19 when I was 17, and then never even used it really for nights out, so...
Said you were 19?
Yeah, it said I was born in 94.
So it was 2 years out?
2 years wrong.
I thought it was just a year out.
My passport and my...
How did you not notice that?
I never really used it. I never really went abroad when I was younger. Like, literally never went abroad, so... The first time I went abroad was when I was literally about 6 when we went to America. And then the second time after that was... I think I did a school trip to Germany when I was about 12. And then this next time was Malia when I was 18.
So on you think... Did you not notice when you went to Bali that it said...
I knew by that point,
right, okay.
But I think for Malia, I had to get a new passport anyway.
Right.
So it didn't really matter. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to move on to the next question, because I'm sure people don't care about your passport.
Yeah, we're talking too much about passports now.
I'm going to move on. I'm actually going to skip a few and move on to what's your biggest fitness pet peeve? Just because I like to be negative.
You've skipped the embarrassing moment.
I'm going to come back
to that. We'll circle back to that.
Yeah, we'll finish on a high.
Yeah. The biggest pet peeve, it's a difficult one because there's loads, but I think the biggest pet peeve...
People being the main one.
The biggest pet peeve I've seen, which isn't a fault on behalf of the people doing it, is when people go to a coach because they're in shape. Yeah, which sounds counterproductive. Yeah. Like,
no, I get that.
You want to be, if you want to work with a coach, you want to know that they've walked the walk and they know what they're doing, and they want to be in shape. But when you see people hiring like a cover model coach or something purely because of their physique, so often is the case that person in themselves does not have a very in-depth or detailed background in education or experience or anything, and they have sort of built that reputation off of their own physique and not what they've done for other people.
Yeah.
And that can be a bit of a pet peeve when you see that happening a lot, and then you see people not necessarily happy with that service, but then stay with them because it's so and so, like they must know what they're on about. I'm the problem. And it's like, no, you're not the problem. It's the perception that just because they are in good shape, which they are, and it's not taking anything away from that they automatically are a good coach or they automatically know what they're doing. Like very often that isn't the case. And that is the biggest annoying thing to see.
Yeah, I suppose it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because if you're on the flip side of that, so if you're the person looking for a coach but you don't know
exactly, and that's why
about who the people are and things like that, then you're going to presume that the person in shape knows the most.
Yeah,
arguably.
exactly. And you are, and like
it is understandable.
Yeah, and for the level of degree that like we know what goes into coaching, for the general person looking for a coach, they're not going to know that. So they're going to be a case of, I want to get in shape, that guy's in shape, I'm going to ask him. Whereas if you see someone who isn't as in shape, your initial thought is going to be, well, he obviously isn't as good or doesn't know what he's doing, otherwise he'd look better himself. But it's not always, that isn't always the case, unfortunately.
No.
And it's not taken away from someone, and don't get me wrong, like you can get people in amazing shape that are fantastic coaches as well, obviously. But a lot of the time you do see sometimes that those that are in really good shape, it doesn't make you a good coach, basically. So you do have to be careful with that. And actually sort of, all I say in that is scope out that person for a little bit first. Don't just go based off of what they look like or their reputation. Actually sort of watch them, try and get testimonials, try and get reviews, and make sure that it works for you. Like, how many conversations have we had where, you know, we know of someone who's gone to someone and they've been given...
Said someone.
And they've been given, it's not a specific person, but just generally, and they've been given now I'm only allowed to eat this and this and this
Chicken
and this.
And
it's like, if that person had any real idea of how to properly help or coach someone, you'd know that you don't have to just eat chicken and rice and broccoli and chicken and rice. Like, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. And if that's what works for them, that's cool. But just to rinse and repeat that plan out on the mass of other people, that isn't coaching, but it is so common to see that.
Yes, but I agree. People can get in shape doing very unhealthy things and pass that on.
Exactly.
That is very true.
So yeah, that's definitely my biggest pet peeve, is that sort of misconception.
But then I'd also then say, what's the best way for people to go around that? Because obviously you say scope it out, look at transformations and stuff like that, but then transformations aren't always the best indicator either, because that could be someone doing exactly what you just said. I don't think I said look, just testimonials and reviews in the sense of how their coaching service works. Because transformations in themselves can be very misleading as well. Like, in a sense of, like you said, you get that before and after picture, but then you don't necessarily get the after picture. And there's not a lot of thought put into, okay, you know, you've got in this amazing shape, but how are we now? Either A, have we done it through a method that's going to be sustainable, so you can, to a degree, sustain your results, and B, do you actually know now what to do going forward with yourself? Which a lot of the time you don't really tend to see. My biggest thing with that, though, is I'd always just say to people, don't be scared to leave. Like, if you get into a situation where someone's not what you expected and they're giving you things that you don't want to do, and say, like, they're telling you to eat the same thing every day for the rest of your life, like, that's not okay, and you're not the problem in that situation. Like, it doesn't have to be as difficult as as I feel like some people make it in that respect. Like, you don't need to have that much discipline to be able to improve your habits and actually become healthier and better and in better shape, and actively, like, sort of taking away the stress of it and sort of making things less rigid a lot of time can be good for people and actually have, like, the opposite effect. So.
And we I think we spoke about this with, I think it was Amy the other week, like, basically saying if you become more and more dependent on your coach, then something isn't right there. Like, you should be working with a coach to give you more knowledge, give you more understanding, give you more control, so that you can become more independent with yourself long term. If you find yourself becoming more and more dependent and I can only do what coach tells me to do, I can't change this, I can't change that, like, I have to do exactly what I'm told, that's quite a crippling relationship to have going forward.
Realistically, anything that, if you put yourself in a situation that's causing you more anxiety, then something's not right with it. Like, having a coach shouldn't suddenly make you anxious about food or training or your relationship with life or, like, your social life or anything like that. It's not meant to take away from the rest of your life, it's meant to just, like, enhance it, really, isn't it?
So. And that is, like, even from a coaching perspective, that's a learning process, because I've, like, we're always learning, or you should always be learning and progressing as coaches. Like, I've made loads of mistakes over the years with, like, when I first started, it was like loads.
Programming for me.
Yeah, used to program you
Very
ridiculous
long
volume.
sessions.
When I first started, it was like set meal plans. There wasn't a lot of flexibility in it because at that time, that's what I believed that had to be done. And it's just part of that process of, as I learn and continue to sort of educate myself and invest in my own courses and sort of my own sort of progress, you start to be able to sort of scope that out a little bit more with people and realise that there's so much more flexibility. And for me now, if I get to a point where if someone leaves me as a coach and comes back to me a month later being like, it all went to shit, I didn't really know what to do, I got really worried, like, I've not done my job properly, and that's not that person failing, that's me failing that person because I've not given them what they needed to be able to take the result that they've made, or even just the progress that they've made, and sustain that and carry that on to some degree. So that's always like a point that we want to get to when it comes to the coaching process, is that it's like, I want to make sure that if you leave, or when you leave, because at the end of the day, there should be an end point to it.
Yeah, it's education, isn't it?
It's an educational system. We don't want someone to become dependent on it. No. You should be happy to sustain, you know, whatever you've achieved to a degree. Like, obviously, if you do like a photo shoot, so I have some clients that do photo shoots, they're not going to be able to walk out of that studio and sustain that level of body composition because it's just not healthy and it's not realistic. But you could then still sustain a relatively leaner and happier physique, or be happier with a physique than what they came to me with.
Yeah.
So it is just relative to where they were started. And
it's just all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, knocking things off the table. Yeah, it's just about balance, and then ultimately just everyone's goals are different, and what they don't, I don't know. I just feel like when people come into the fitness industry, they just like presume that it has to be like this all or nothing lifestyle, and I think that's quite problematic.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of maybe partly social media and stuff.
Yeah, massively.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
no
days off and all that kind of bullshit.
Yeah. One of the
all these things, like, it's just not.
One of the problems with that is the accessibility of now becoming a coach. Is anyone can pretty much just make themselves a coach.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about this a lot, and you do see this a lot with people that will do like to do a bodybuilding show nowadays is very much on trend within the fitness industry. Like, a lot of people do it. And then fall in love with that process, which is fantastic, but then decide that they're going to start coaching, and a lot of your time you can just see sort of regurgitated plans. Yeah. So they will then, because they've not had that background in education or understanding, but they just love the fitness industry, they love training, they love being in the gym, which is completely understandable. Yeah. But then you do just start to see that regurgitation of, well, this is what worked for me, so this is what I'm going to give you. Yeah. And then that's when it becomes problematic.
I do think as well with that, sometimes that's like from people that do choose to do that, like once they've done it, that's not always necessarily from a bad place. I think that's like a naivety of like potentially how complex people
and that's
are
all it
as
is.
Individuals.
And I think, and that is just down to an education point of view. Is the more you sort of study and the more you learn, the more you realise it is. Yes, the base concepts of losing weight and gaining weight are simple when it comes to thermodynamics and calorie equations. But when you actually go into the nooks and crannies of how are you going to make that work for that person, how are you going to help someone in their day-to-day life and help them feel better, help them feel healthier, help them sleep better, like, that's when it starts to become much more complicated, and then that's when you do need to know how to adjust things or how to change things along the way. And it isn't just as simple as well, this is what works for me, or this will help you lose fat as long as you stick to it 100% sort of thing. Yeah.
I'm going to bring it back round because I feel like we've deviated.
Yeah, we're going to deviate all the time, aren't we?
I'm going to move on to... I'm looking at questions behind the screen, so that's why I'm something like my head is in the way. I'm going to say, what do you love about the fitness industry? And then we'll move on to the good stuff, which is basically how you've embarrassed yourself over the years. But keep this one shorter than that one. Yeah. You went on a ramble there.
Well, you're just going to have to rein me in because I'm just going to end up waffling otherwise. Yeah. What do I love about the fitness industry? It is genuinely more on a personal level. It's just the actual impact it can have on someone and how it can change someone's outlook, confidence and health, like for a day-to-day basis, and not just how they feel in the gym, not just how they feel when they look in the mirror, but how they hold themselves when they walk into work, how they feel when they go out for a drink with their mates. Like, that is genuinely one of the most rewarding things that from a coaching perspective you can get is when you see that change, and you work with someone who puts that work in and gets that result and notices those changes. And like, one of the reasons like I love photo shoots, and obviously I've started advertising more for photo shoots because I want to go down and do more of those routes, is like when I've done them with like Josh, for example, or with like Ryan and stuff. Obviously Ryan's got one coming up. When like it was with Josh's, and they see that first photo on the day, and you see their face, just the jaw drop, and just be like, is that actually me? Like, I can't believe that's what I actually look like. And then you just see that shift, that change in their confidence. Because this is like, I did the exact same thing myself. When you go into something like that, especially if it's new, it's very nerve-wracking. You stood in front of a camera, you feel awkward, you feel a little bit silly. You've got all these thoughts leading up to it of, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not the kind of person that could do a photo shoot. I don't have the body for a photo shoot. I don't know how to pose in front of a camera. The photographer's going to think I look daft. All these different stupid thoughts. But then when you see that first photo back and you're like, oh my God, I actually look like okay, like I don't look out of place, like I've worked for that.
Yeah. When
you feel that, it's crazy. And when you see that in others, that's like just one of the things that I love the most in terms of, I'd say the fitness industry, but it's more towards my actual job. It's just seeing that change, and that, like I said, not necessarily the change of waffling again. Not necessarily the change in someone's physique, but how that then carries over into their daily life with how they approach work, how they approach relationships, how they carry themselves and feel.
I think it's like you sort of see people starting to accept themselves a bit more, don't you? So totally. And it's not necessarily about like getting really lean for a photo shoot, but I imagine even if people just wanted to do a photo shoot, not even in like, you don't need to be like super lean and like in a like comp.
This is the thing,
and this kind of stuff. It's just like actually accepting the body you're in and realising you don't need to do things to the extreme to be like proud of where you are in your journey.
And this is the thing, like, and so I'm going to be putting out over the next few weeks about group photo shoot stuff next year. It's not a thing, like photo shoots aren't something where you have to turn up ridiculously shredded. Like you don't have to have a full-on six-pack.
You don't have to be anyway.
You don't have to at all. It's relative to where you start. The whole point of a photo shoot for me is to set yourself a goal that is scary, that's outside of your comfort zone, to work and commit yourself to that process, and then to showcase that on the day, just basically celebrating what your hard work has achieved, whatever that is. And it's all relative to where you started and the work that you put in. There isn't a certain way you have to look for a photo shoot.
No.
It's all just about celebrating and showcasing the hard work that you've done and what you've achieved, and then having a collection of photos for life that you can just refer back to and be like, yeah, I did that, I put that work in, I went out my comfort zone and I achieved something like that. And that's the main thing about it.
Realistically, this is a sweeping generalisation because I don't know what your demographic is, but when we're all like 50, we'll all be wishing we looked like what we did. Wishing we had the bodies we had when we were in our 20s. Like, it's just, crazy.
I'm never going to age. When I get to 50, I'll look exactly the same. No.
Sorry, what's that receiving spot saying?
Next question, anyway. Well, you can't be saying things like that. We're live. People are watching.
Not that many people. It's alright. Let me see. Well, we've done the pet peeve one.
Should we go on to the embarrassing?
Yeah,
it's not really.
Let me ask the question.
Alright, you're in charge.
Just going straight in. So, what's been your most embarrassing fitness moment over the years? And then you can just throw in a general really embarrassing moment in life if you want.
Yeah. Well, there'll be plenty of them. I reckon there's two that stick out in terms of embarrassing. The second one wasn't really that embarrassing. The first one though was... So the first one was years ago. The first one was when I was at school. I loved sprinting. I did athletics and I was like 100 metres, 200 metres. I was pretty good at it.
Wait, is this a story your mum tells us?
Yeah, you know this one. So when I was at school, 100 metres, 200 metres, that was like my event. I was pretty good at it.
Your event?
Yeah, it was.
Symbol.
Well, you know. But at some point, basically, the school had a cross-country race on. They needed someone to run it. I'd never done it before in my life, but I was like, yeah, cool, I like running, I'll do the cross-country. And we turned up on the day, and it was like, it wasn't that big of a track, but when you're like 12 years old, it seems a lot bigger. And I remember it was a really rainy day, really boggy day, and we were having to run around this like it was up at Trinity campus, you know, up at Yandra. And it was like really muddy grass that we had to run on. And I remember we had to do 3 laps, and I did the first lap, and I was like well towards the back, and I was like panting, out of breath, hyperventilating. I was like,
chubby boy.
This little chubby kid
beginning.
who was giving it all the big un because he thought he could run 100 metres, so across country we were going to be fine. And I remember doing one lap and I was being like, I am never going to finish this, like I am well far behind. And then I don't actually remember what happened, but all that I've been...
That's a good way to start.
All that I've been told that's happened is basically a guy who was sort of officiating the whole thing with a speaker basically shouted out to the parents, can someone come? One of the runners is sat by the side of the track, like full on hyperventilating, and he can't carry on. And so my mum had to run across to the track, and I was literally just sat in the mud, just full on like, could not get my breath. And at the time I was like, oh, maybe I was nervous. It wasn't, I was just unfit, I just couldn't do cross country. And I didn't even finish the race, so that was my first ever introduction to cross country.
I don't know if you were hyperventilating, I think you just hid.
I just couldn't be bothered.
Said you just hid.
I just couldn't be bothered.
Honestly.
And that was my first ever attempt at cross country, which looking back, it was probably around a 2,000 metre track. It was probably about a 10-minute run. I got halfway through it and I was like, no, it's in for me, I'm sitting out.
Probably not even that far really, was it?
So that was definitely the earliest one. And then I did have in the gym once, I think I was squatting in the rack, and I was setting up the bar, and I'd set up the bar in the rack, and then I sort of squat.
I heard this.
I don't know, I'd squatted down underneath the rack, I used to do it before my sets to sort of just try and limber up and get sort of working on my mobility. Yeah. Just do a few bodyweight squats just to sort of try and get myself ready for the next set. And I had the bar set up in the rack and I squatted underneath it. And then I stood back up and I literally went head first into the bar, and it just completely... I went head first into the bar and it completely knocked me back, and I was just flat on my ass on the gym floor, just lying back, and I had a bad headache for the rest of the day. So that was probably another... Thankfully though, that was on like a Sunday morning, so there was only about 3 or 4 people in the gym. Right. So it wasn't that bad. But yeah, it hurt. That hurt a lot. Felt like felt stupid. But
let's not talk about my head in that thing then.
You get your head stuck in a car race machine.
No, because dangling. I feel like dangling.
That's how I remember it, is that your head was stuck in this car race machine. You were holding onto it squealing and your feet were dangling below it.
That's an absolute lie. A full-blown lie. Kurt was there, he can back me up. That is not what happened at all.
But that was funny. But no, so they're probably they're not really that embarrassing. The first one was embarrassing just because I was younger and it was just embarrassing. The second one in the gym, I wouldn't say I got embarrassed, I just felt like a tit.
I'm trying to think if I've seen you do any super embarrassing things in the gym.
No, I don't think I'm that bad normally. I've dropped dumbbells on myself, I've dropped machines, I've done all that stuff.
Dropped machines? That's
you know the...
You pick up machines?
No, the V squat in Flex in Pudsey. The first time I ever used that, I didn't put the catch on right again, and it just crashed to the bottom. And that was like one of the first times I've ever gone there, I think. But yeah, that was about it.
I'm sure I'll think of something.
Yeah. Well, we can get you back on and you can do that on yours.
What? Do that on mine?
Yeah, we'll get you to do another one. But yeah, so that was, embarrassing wise, that was it. So, but yeah, so what have we gone through?
We have gone through nearly all of them, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm just going to check the questions. He's given me questions I have to ask him. It's very sad.
Yes, and I'm going to pretend like I haven't.
The only one that I don't think we've done is number 1, but it's not even necessarily a fitness question.
No. So I think we're pretty much there. I think we'll probably wrap it up.
Yeah,
to be honest, and go get our tea.
Bored of you rambling on.
Yeah, I think we will be. I get bored of me rambling on as well. I have to do it all the time when I start talking to clients on check-ins and WhatsApps, and then I'm like, I'm sorry.
I'll hear you outside. I'll be like in a different room, and I can still hear you, and I'm like, you said that 4 times.
I know. I've just rambled for like 4 minutes. You're just gonna have to ignore.
You're the reason that they decided you could speed up WhatsApp.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Awesome. So we are gonna wrap it up there, I think. So.
Aye.
Thank you, Sophie, for coming on and
standing in
as the host for it, for
you
this episode 10. I didn't let you talk, no. For episode 10. So episode 10 of Fitness Thoughts is done. So we're going to be back to normal as of next week with a pre-recorded guest in the normal format.
Who is next week?
I don't think there's a few booked in, but I don't think the next one's actually decided yet. Mm-hmm. Depends which one's which one gets done first. In case. But we do have a few lined up, which I'm really excited for, which is going to be really, really cool. So yeah, I think we will leave it there.
Yeah. I don't know.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bo, thank you for engaging with it as well, buddy. And I will speak to you all soon. Have a good evening.
Bye.